welcome to our very first DraftKings episode
We're pumped
for UFC Fight Night 143 going on in at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn.
First one on ESPN. Big night for the UFC and MMA in general.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. I'm super pumped because I remember the first, the Fox era was fantastic, and just remember that.
What a banger they started out on.
I'm sure that they weren't planning on that heavyweight fight going only, 20 seconds or something like that. Junior Dos Santos.
Hour slated on Big Fox, and it ended in a minute.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. Yeah, Junior Dos Santos knocked Cain Velasquez out with like a short punch.
I think it was an overhand right, if I'm correct.
I thought it was a shorthand right, but could be wrong. I don't know.
One of us
Guess we're going to find out afterwards. But in the meantime, so yeah, welcome to our first ever DraftKings episode. We're really excited about this. We look at odds all the time. Sean and I have had a history of playing with DraftKings. We never gamble big, but
no, we mostly just like to play for fun.
Yeah, and you know what? It makes the fights so much more exciting. Like
you find yourself invested in the small fights. That's what it is.
Yeah. Even if it's only like $10 on the line, and you might, maybe you can win like 20. Like,
well, the funny thing is that I was telling Ryan just the other day that when I first got into DraftKings, I would invest in these lesser named guys, and I would watch them fight. And the first time I won money on DraftKings, the first time I played, I invested in a guy named Brian Ortega, who I had never really heard of. And the first time I watched him and became a fan when he submitted Diego Brandao, and look where he is now. I know he's coming off a pretty bad loss, but still a fan, still a great fighter.
All right, but, he lost to the super champ, though.
Well,
Max the Man Holloway.
This isn't about Max, because we could go on. We could have a whole podcast about Max Holloway. So let's stop there before we get too far into this. This is DraftKings, Max Holloway.
So real quick, what I'll do is, first of all, let's just talk about the fights real quick. We're, of course, check out our other episode, our other podcast. We're filming them at the same time, but we're going to go through the main card. But check that one out. But just a real quick rundown for those of you that are not familiar. The early prelims are going to be on ESPN Plus this Saturday, January 19th. The prelims will be on ESPN. And that's going to be headlined by Alex Hernandez and Donald Cerrone.
That is a firefight, son.
Scrap. That is a scrap.
And here you go again with a young guy going against a veteran. A lot to learn in this fight.
I can't wait for that one. And then that, of course, is to get you excited. So then you pay the $5 a month to go back to ESPN Plus for the main card, which starts at, its normal time, 10 p.m., this Saturday, January 19th. So, and then, again, that's on ESPN Plus. So, you have used ESPN Plus for a while.
Yeah,
right?
I liked it. All ESPN content is on there for $5 a month. For streaming services, that's really cheap. They don't hold back anything. They don't ask you for VIP access for more shit.
Yeah,
and
it's better than Fight Pass too.
We have had some problems with Fight Pass since we've started this podcast.
Problems is a nice way to put it. Oh, God, yeah. So that's, yeah. But obviously ESPN, the bigger platform owned by Disney, they got the money to invest into it. And, it's definitely a lot better than Fight Pass. If you've played around with Fight Pass, you know exactly what we're talking about.
If you do get the Fight Pass or the ESPN Plus, Ariel Helwani has a show on there with Chael Sonnen. They do, I think, about once a week. It's really good. I think it's probably about 35, 40 minutes. They do like a 5-round kind of thing where they go through different topics of the week or even the month. And I believe his actual podcast, a lot like how he had the MMA Hour, he has on ESPN Plus now.
Do you think it pisses Dana White off that Ariel Helwani is so successful and like the voice of MMA, essentially, outside of the UFC?
I think it ticks him off because it's the one thing he can't control.
Yeah.
It's just it's that fly on the wall that he's trying to swat, but he always is one step ahead.
Yeah, he hasn't got along with Ariel Helwani in the past because Helwani's asked him the tough questions.
He's the only one that'll ask him the tough questions.
Yeah, really. So, all right, well, enough blabbering. We'll save that. So let's take a look into this card. There's always a lot of open games, which we're going to start right now. Sean was talking about this actually right before the podcast came up, and I thought that this would be a good idea. Is there any interest in our community? We actually had some great following through our first 2 episodes, so thank you very much. Keep sharing and liking our pages and our podcast. Share with anybody that you know is an MMA fan. We just love talking about it. Hope to share it with everybody. But we want to see if there'd be a lot of interest in if we set up a league, or I guess how would you refer to that? Like
it's a private league.
Like a private league. If people would be interested in that, we could just do it with the casual followers, which I have started calling our followers this week. The casuals. So for our casual followers, if you guys are interested, I'll put a poll up. It's going to be up there January, what's today, 17th, the 18th. So Friday, January 18th, it'll be up, and we'll run that for a week because we have a little while before the next
We haven't
event.
Decided, maybe if we'll just start the first one, do like a free thing just to kind of, just for the friendly competition, or if you guys want to put down some money, maybe we'll have
putting money, baby.
Okay, that's out the window.
No,
we throwing some paper, baby.
We're throwing some paper down. Typically, Sean and I like to do the 50-50s and double ups
because we're low risk, low reward players.
We gamble big, and we pretty much shoot just the straight and narrow. But even, you know what the thing is though, even with $10 or $20 on the line, it still makes the fights that much more exciting, and it gets it, like, for someone that
I feel like that's a reasonable amount, especially if you're watching a pay-per-view and you've already spent the money to watch the pay-per-view, and you're spending money on food and drinks. You don't want to spend too much more on DraftKings because we know this game is crazy. Things can happen, and a lot of money can be wasted.
Yes, it can. But, for people that aren't too familiar with maybe some, prelim guys, guys that haven't fought in the UFC, maybe not big names, it's a great way to get invested and just be able to watch somebody that you're not usually going to watch. So I guess, should we, do a disclaimer that we're not getting paid by ESPN or DraftKings, because I feel like we keep talking about
yes, we aren't getting paid by ESPN or DraftKings. We would like to. Shout out to ESPN and DraftKings. I don't think we're quite at the following yet.
That's what I have.
But maybe one day.
That's what I have you.
It's up to you guys to get us there.
You're my plug. You're plugging in everything for us. That's non-existent yet. But anyways, all right. So let's jump into this DraftKings pick here. I know that I had Sean go through, and he picked out some heavy favorites by point, just guys that just rack up points, as well as some dark horses. And then Sean has a lineup in here, which we will kind of run through and go through as well. So Sean, why don't we talk about let's talk about some dark horses first, because you know what, it's easy to go in there and pick all the favorites, right? But let's talk dark horses first.
Yeah, who do you want to go after first? I have a couple on there. My two dark horses, or my underdogs, I guess you could say, are Ortiz against Joseph Benavidez and Donald Cerrone over Alex Hernandez.
So let's start with Ortiz then. Why did you pick Ortiz over Benavidez?
Ortiz, they went to a decision last time. It was a competitive fight. I didn't pick him necessarily because he'd win, but because I feel like a competitive fight, not a lot of money left after I'd spent most of it on the favorites. And it's a guy that I'm confident he won't get finished by a guy who doesn't get a lot of finishes. Can be competitive, land some strikes, maybe get a takedown here or there, score some points. Decision loss is a much better outcome than a knockout loss. So obviously,
because if you're not familiar with DraftKings, the other thing is just getting points. There's people that can get they'll have a winning fighter by decision, but they don't get as many points as somebody that lost by decision. That was an absolute war.
Significant strikes are huge points, and takedowns. And advancing position. Advancing position, I believe, is probably, how much was it? I believe it's around 2 or 3 points just for advancing a position.
Really? That's awesome. Which might be
the reason we've picked
Gregor.
Yes.
We'll get into that in a minute.
I was about to say why we picked a certain fighter, but you named him.
Yeah. So to that point too, then so Ortiz is a good one, and to go to your other dark horse, I guess if you can call him a dark horse.
I would say he is a dark horse just because this is his typical fight. This is where he is in his career. He's fighting the young underdog, not the underdog, the young guns, the hungry lions.
Yeah, Donald Cerrone.
He's kind of 50-50-ish in these fights. He's lost to the Darren Tills and the Leon Edwards, but he has beaten some. He's beaten Mike Perry. And Alexander Hernandez, from what I've seen, he's a pretty aggressive guy.
Yes,
he's well-rounded. He's very dangerous. He absolutely can win this fight. There's no doubt about it. But Cerrone, you never count him out. You just never know.
No, he's a warrior. So
he can win the fight wherever it goes.
Yeah, he always wins the fights he's not supposed to too. That's the other thing. So he loses the fights he shouldn't, like when he fought Diaz, but then he'll win the fights that he shouldn't. So
I don't think he's a good when the real pressure's on. But I don't think there's really any pressure here. I don't think anybody's really expecting, him to be Donald Cerrone of 3-4 years ago.
Right.
So but it is his return at 155. That's going to be a really interesting story. I think
that's a big piece.
Obviously, other than the title fight and Greg Hardy making his UFC debut, I think that's the biggest story of this fight card. There's a reason that these two are fighting on ESPN.
Yes, it's going to be exciting. That's another good point, too, there is ESPN's looking for a reason for you to subscribe right then and there, and that's by getting you excited by watching this fight before the main card starts. That's why you always see that 20-30 minute gap between.
I really feel like Cerrone was probably the best value on DraftKings. We're at 7,600 for Donald Cerrone. He averages
that's not that much.
For a guy who fights as much as he does, 80 fantasy points per fight. And he doesn't win a lot of fights either. As of late, he's lost, I think, 3 or 4 in a row.
Has he? Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, he went on a pretty bad losing streak there. So to still average 80 points per fight, I mean, that shows that he can put him up any given night.
Not to mention, too, he's one of the highest fight night bonus award winners in UFC history as well. So, he's certainly worth the value there, just because even if he doesn't win and he goes to decision, you're going to get some points off of him. So those are good picks. I like that. Why don't we talk about your favorites?
My number one favorite is Gregor Gillespie. I feel like of the guys I picked to win, he has the most well-rounded game to beat his opponent. And Yancey, tough dude, man. He's a fun guy to watch. We saw him fight Cowboy. I want to speak about Cowboy having some fun fights. He's always willing for a firefight, but Medeiros, not the greatest chin that he has. And Gillespie, man, he's a mauler.
And Medeiros is coming down to 155 too.
Oh, he's coming back down to 155. I guess I forgot that Gillespie was a lightweight.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, 2 bigger welterweights coming down. But the other thing about Gillespie, his fantasy points are off the charts.
Folks, we're talking 4 fights, 120 points per fight. That is unreal. He has 2 finishes in the first round and 2 finishes in the second round.
Just to put it in perspective, the way I'm looking through here at the rest of the lineup, I would guess off the top of my head, looking at this, that the average, if you take out Gillespie and Geoff Neal, who we'll mention here in a minute.
There was one more, I think, that had a higher average than Gillespie, but I believe he only had 1 fight. Yeah, Sandhagen.
Yeah. Well, if you take those 3 out of it, though, the average is probably in the low 70s for the rest of the card. Most of these guys have 77, 95, 93, 62, 97.
We have 1 fighter under who's averaged 7.5 points per finish, so that's really going to hurt the average. That's really going to drop it down.
And you looked at that guy too, because he's a newer fighter. I haven't really checked him out. But what he only landed 8 shots in his last fight or something like that before he got finished.
Yeah, he didn't even do anything.
Yeah, so
he was essentially useless.
Not fair. But the next few guys, 73 points, 58, 59. So really, just to drive that point home, Gillespie with 120, considering this is what his 5th.
This is his 5th fight.
Yeah, 5th fight in the UFC. Yep. So that means he has 4 behind him, not like Sandhagen, who's I think
good wins, quality wins too.
Absolutely. So, just looking at those fantasy points, and what do you think? How is he getting those fantasy points?
Gillespie? All over the place. He's really well rounded. He can take guys down. I believe I was reading, he has one of the fastest advancing of positions of most ground fighters in the UFC. He gets guys to the ground. He's going for mount. He's going for side control. He's looking for something.
Right.
He's looking to finish you right off the bat. He's not trying to play around. He's not going to compete. He's not going to wear you down. He's not going to take his time, pick his shots. He's coming to maul you.
Yeah. So big point spread there for him. Definitely, he's a must-have. Just on the betting side, just with his.
I would think so.
Fantasy points.
I look at the fight. I don't see much Medeiros has to offer.
No, so Medeiros is always game. He's an entertaining guy, and he can turn this into a war, which to the point of DraftKings, that would make it even better. So who's your next guy? Who's your next favorite on this card?
My next favorite, I would probably have to say Greg Hardy. Honestly, don't know a dang thing about his opponent. I don't think anybody
Nobody
does.
does.
There's a reason for that because he has one purpose, and his purpose is to get knocked out by Greg Hardy on ESPN. That is his one purpose in this life and in his career.
That is 100% correct. I'm looking at the Vegas odds for this fight.
Greg Hardy has as high of a odds of winning as Gillespie.
Here we go. So as of Wednesday, I haven't got the update for today. Hardy is a minus 550 to Crowder's plus 375. Yowzas.
And I think when we looked at Crowder, was Crowder the grappler that we looked at? Or was that somebody? I think maybe that's somebody else.
Yeah, I want to say, I don't think
Okay,
that was
so maybe
him.
it wasn't. Yeah, maybe we didn't look. So, like we said, we don't know anything about Crowder other than his one purpose is to get knocked out.
He was signed for this one fight.
He was signed to go to sleep.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll be paid handsomely, and God bless you, sir.
Yeah, I know.
Because you are sent for sacrifice.
Sacrificial lamb of the UFC. No, that is 100% correct.
It'd be impossible to me to imagine that they'd let Greg Hardy fight somebody that could beat him in his first fight.
Oh, because they need heavyweights.
Not just they need heavyweight, they need marketable heavyweights.
That's very true.
He's
too.
controversial. Bingo. He's got a name. There you go.
He's an ex-NFL star. Yeah.
And he can knock people dead with one punch.
Yeah.
He's got everything to be a superstar.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, because of his past, we'll see where he goes from here.
Fantastic
But
points.
I fully expect him to knock this guy out.
Fantastic points, Sean. I love it. So those are Sean's two underdog picks and his two favorites. I'm going to run through your lineup real quick. So if we look at Sean's lineup, his first pick is Henry Cejudo over Dillashaw. And remember, this is just DraftKings, so this isn't necessarily who he thinks is going to win. He's just looking for points here and who you can get the value out of, because you can't pick not everybody you pick is going to be the favorite. That's why they have the salary cap on there, so you're not going to be able to get that. But
otherwise, everybody would pick all the favorites. And
so actually, you made some good points on why you picked Cejudo over Dillashaw. You want to jump on that real quick?
Well, you look back to why I picked Ortiz, right, to get points and be in a long decision. Well, Cejudo, I would pick him for the same thing. Dillashaw does have finishability. I question his ability with the power at 125. He looks pretty sucked in. We'll talk about that later in the next podcast. But Cejudo, 25 minutes. He's got an extra 10 minutes of fight time, extra 10 minutes to land takedowns, land strikes, gain more points. Simple as that.
Good point.
Great value, 7,300. I mean, we still had 500 left over from our remaining salary, so I thought it was the best pick for what we had left.
Yeah. No,
by far.
I
mean, once you get down to that area, it's a lot of no names and people who are supposed to lose, like Crowder. It's a lot of those. So Cejudo's not necessarily supposed to lose. He's supposed to be competitive in this fight. I expect him to be competitive.
And, I mean, that would be huge, too, because he's the underdog for him to win in this one as well. So
I can't imagine a lot of people picking Cejudo. Maybe a lot of people do. Maybe a lot of people are thinking kind of the same thing I am. I wouldn't be surprised. I see a lot of interesting picks when I play DraftKings with other people. So
yeah. Hey, that's a good point, too. So I love that point that you made, though. He's not historically a very high point fighter when it comes to fantasy
not
points.
great output, other than takedowns,
Yeah.
He doesn't really push pace. He hasn't finished a lot of fights. But like we said, he doesn't really get finished, and he's always competitive. So,
So some great points. I think that's a great opportunity right there. Second pick is Greg Hardy, as Sean mentioned, and then Gillespie, which we talked about. Fourth pick was Ortiz. We talked about that one. The next pick was Cerrone, and then the last pick was Neal.
Yep, Jeff Neal over Bilal Muhammad. Jeff Neal is big-time prospect. A lot of knockout power, also, averaging 108 fantasy points per fight. He's only got 2 fights, but he's got 2 finishes. So he's got quality wins over to Beneil Dariush, who's been ranked in the lightweight, knocked him out in the first round. So that's legit.
Yeah,
in your first UFC fight, that's legit.
Yeah, Beneil's awesome.
And Bilal's always game to fight. He's really well-rounded, but again, this is a fight Neal should win.
Cool. So. Great salary. I think that was just a great lineup. Again, that is with I think some decent money left over. So you start with that $50,000 salary cap.
You're averaging about $800 or 8,300. For this card.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of opportunity on this card to get some really good picks.
The interesting thing about this card, when I'm looking at it, it's a lot of new fighters, a lot of debuts. And that's something that you usually we don't do with DraftKings, because we don't really do it for the small fight night cards. But since it's ESPN, we had to do it.
Yeah.
There are some really good picks on here. But again, this goes back to our point of look into some of these younger people, because these are the names of tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And
maybe Crowder is the name of tomorrow. Maybe
could you imagine? Oh God, we'll have to talk. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in our other podcast. But man, can you imagine? No, I think that those are some great points. I like that. I think we're gonna roll with that. Sean has a long history with DraftKings in a positive way, so. He's made some money on there.
I think we wanted, we talked kind of about our what we like to look for in DraftKings, but some of the things that we talked about that we didn't like, looking at some of these fighters in value. We look at Joseph Benavidez. He's smack dab right between Dillashaw and Alonzo Menifield, two guys who are, Menifield hasn't fought officially in the UFC, but if you've watched him on Contender Series, dude is yoked.
My God, he is a monster.
He looks like Yoel Romero at 205.
Yes, he does.
And he hits like him.
Yes, he does.
He's not as athletic, I'll say that. But anyway, moving on. Dillashaw is a great fighter. He can finish fights. Very talented. Definitely one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. And to have Benavidez sandwiched between those two, I know he's a big favorite.
I just don't see that, though.
I understand. They're more DraftKings does it for the favorites, but if you're looking for points, he's not there. He's just, good output guy. Not going to finish fights though. Not really a finisher.
Yeah, he's a decent favorite over Ortiz.
This is a guy he has already beaten. We should mention that. They did fight before.
He didn't finish him though, right? I don't remember. I don't, because I didn't see this one. I've watched Benavidez plenty of times, but I didn't see this one. But he's a decent favorite. He's a minus 235 to Ortiz's plus 185, so it's not really that big a difference. He just doesn't. I don't know if he has the output though to be up there with some of these guys. That's what I'm saying.
Decent output, but
I don't know if he's worth $9,000 to your point.
For the amount that you're paying, you need somebody that can finish the fight or get you a lot of points.
Yeah.
Somebody with an output like Max Holloway, and somebody that we mentioned before, somebody that's gonna just land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even if they don't finish, they're landing a lot of shots. And I just don't see that from Benavidez.
No.
And I don't want to be that guy, but I don't like to invest a lot of money into the women fights because most of them are decision fights, and a lot of them don't have tons of output. Unlike I would invest money in Joanna, somebody like that, or Amanda, because Amanda will finish fights. Joanna will land a lot of punches and strikes, but for the most part, I just don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this. It's just they don't land a lot of strikes. They do land some takedowns, but they're usually just not great for points.
Yeah. Because you don't see, I don't want to say too many, but you don't see as many finishes right now. So
especially knockouts. Right. Knockouts are the big points.
Right. So that's a great point. So anything else you see in here that you would tell anybody? I think that you covered pretty much every aspect of that piece.
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Awesome. All right. Well, so again, I think most of the time we're going to do the 50-50s. We're going to focus on perhaps multipliers. Those are always good ones to jump on. I think that's pretty much everything that we're covering. Again, this is just our first episode of DraftKings, so thank you for joining us. If there's anything we're missing, anything you'd like us to cover in the future going forward,
please let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Tweet at us.
We got 4. We have 4 events next month.
Oh boy, we're gonna be busy.
Yeah, we're gonna be busy, and that's a good thing. We love it.
Yes. So we love this stuff.
Plenty of DraftKings coming up next month. So anything that you want to see added to DraftKings, whether you want us to dive a little bit more into the different tournament contest types, or if you want to hear a little bit more about the dark horses and strategy and things of that nature, let us know on our Facebook page at The Casuals MMA.
And vote on our Twitter poll.
Yes.
Please.
We'll do it on Twitter and on Facebook.
Let us know.
Yeah, so that'll be fun.
I'm sure there's some of you out there, you want to try to take our money. We want your money. Let's get it.
Our own contest. Yeah, maybe. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for joining us. Remember, check out our other podcast previewing this weekend's UFC event. And,